Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting-edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And as the title explains, we are so going to do it tonight. And we have some of the most incredible minds and souls and luminaries with us tonight. And I know the conversation is going to be so expansive and so thought-provoking on so many levels. I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. We sure do appreciate you showing up, right? Day after day, week after week, year after year. It's been 5 years. Thank you for your super chats. And if you'd like to join us on Sunday to manifest, bringing in the new world, manifest the ascension into 5D, which I suspect we'll talk about tonight. Come join us at the Mastermind Connection. It's 2:00 on Sunday. We meet on Zoom. Send an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. Augie will send you the link. We go on a beautiful visual imagery journey, envisioning the way that we want things to be. And many of those things include healing for ourselves, for loved ones, for pets, for the world, for back when the elections, right? Having peaceful elections, which kind of happened, but some miracles actually happened there. So if you feel a little stirring in your gut that you would like to join us, send an email to themastermindconnection@gmail, and we'll see you Sunday at 2:00 Eastern. Augie, please tell us about our really good friends and guests.
Yes. Oh, this is going to be fun. And we stretched it to an hour and a half, too, because there's so much to talk about. And we have the world-renowned Laura Eisenhower with us. And I'm looking at her, so yes, she is here. And the thing about her is that when she talks, the world listens, because there's depth. Real depth to what she talks about. She talks on several levels of consciousness. She talks to the ones that is just starting out on the spiritual journey, and she also talks to the advanced souls, and we all understand each other. So I would absolutely say welcome to the show, Laura. And then we have Eric, the healer, Dadmer. And we're going to hear, I want to ask him a little bit about the healer part, because that is an interesting middle name, isn't it? And I want to hear about that. And
welcome, guys.
Yes. And one more thing, though, we had Jerry Wills supposed to join us, and he have computer problems. He says he's going to try to make it in. But if it don't work, we will forgive him. So, absolutely. Gosh, welcome here with us.
Yeah, guys, it's so good. Laura, welcome. Eric, welcome. So good to have you. And I know people know you, but I know your lives are so fluid and dynamic, and you're often called to bring different modalities to the forefront at different times. So, Laura, would you tell people what you're doing right now and how things are going in your world?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for pulling this together. It's great to see you guys. I always love having conversations with you and you as well, Eric. We all go way back. And yeah. So let's see, 2024, my book's finally coming out. It'll be out in March. It's called Awakening the Truth Frequency. And I will be attending some expos and events. I have a podcast. I've moved everything mostly over to Rumble as far as my free material because of all the censorship. But yeah, just always diving into these sort of topics. Where are we currently? And just a lot of the themes in my book about awakening the truth frequency, I really feel is something that we're going to be really feeling in 2024 with the shift of Pluto into Aquarius, Uranus and Jupiter being conjunct each other, and just the final energies of like the sort of Capricorn, which represents structures and outer authority. And that's the lower octave, right? So when we begin to move to the higher levels of a certain planetary energy, we experience something completely different. And so the higher level of Saturn is self-mastery. So, and being a teacher, going through all the trials and tribulations until we are no longer giving our power away, but we're working with the law of structure on our own terms, which is very much what I feel this year is all about. So with the book coming out, with just the guests that I bring on, which I'd love to bring you guys on, as this channel that I've moved over to Rumble is growing slowly. Yeah, I'm just keeping up with the podcasts and some trips. I'll be going back to Glastonbury. Last year, I got to go to Turkey and England and a few other, trips. So that Turkey trip is going to go to the next level because it's all about the peace talks and all of us coming together, saying that we're not going to rely on the world leaders or what they're deciding. It's up to us, the people, to stand up and say, this is how we think, this is what we want, and we want peace. And there's no reason to continue this divide and conquer. So I'm always advocating for that and unity consciousness and doing the inner work and standing solid in our truth, which is very much what my book is about. And also dismantling a lot of the false narratives. So a lot of what I've discovered about what truly happened in Eisenhower's administration, I bring to the book and I bring to a lot of the talks that I do. But in this particular meeting, yeah, I know we're talking about like the event and we're just talking about this year ahead. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing is just being really fluid and in the flow and just loving the synchronicities, just like tonight and how we're all coming together. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Laura. That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Eric, how about you? Tell us about you.
Don't you just love listening to Laura? I'm just
Absolutely.
so blessed to have her as a dear friend, and I started speaking with her when I first started in 2013. And what I love about Laura is she's always describing the theme of what is happening, and she's got her hand on the pulse of everything. And then she's an astrologer and does tarot and can I went through my second Saturn return when I was 58, and I had to retire. It was just time to retire, and I was done. And they couldn't force me to with the sea business and all that. But I want to remind Laura, since we're both whistleblowers and we get people in trouble to get censored because we are on YouTube, I think. So I love YouTube. I do. But my shows, you can't see any of my shows on my own channel. And when people say they're going to edit our shows and they don't, they get flagged and stuff. So we're going to be careful tonight, Laura and I. So, but, I'm famous for, I guess I was a whistleblower for the coffin liners. I gave Jesse Ventura the FEMA camp information about the coffin liners in the 90s. And I was working for the government and I started seeing all the stuff. And I'll tell you later in the story because there's a backstory before that. So and then when I was working at the Department of Public Health, they couldn't force me to, I confronted them with all the laws and regulations, and they couldn't force me with a mask or a shot or anything. And so I was kind of famous for that. And I'm a pioneer speaker about Mandela effect, and I'm not going to scare you guys off with flat Earth. And I talk about urine therapy and cancer cures, and I talk about the relationship between the 5G and the biochip that was, and then I talked about transhumanism. And, I was a pioneer speaker for many topics. I saw these things come out. But I'd like to be known for, really, I'm the California kid. And when I went down to LA in the 80s and 90s, I had so much fun. I lived in Santa Monica. And I was hanging out with my friends playing tourist in LA, and we were going. I love Mexican food, and I'd never studied Spanish, but I like Latina girls, and I learned Spanish and learned to order the food for everyone because they kept putting us behind the end of the line. So I learned Spanish to order for us, and I kept putting French fries on my burrito. So they call it the California kid style, and because they didn't know my name, and so I started that. My friends will tell you. And I always put French fries on my burgers, and they call that California kid style too. And then another thing, silly thing I did, I worked in the theaters in Century City, and I met a lot of movie stars and actors and models, and I was trying to become an actor, and I was I was doing martial arts, and then I worked at the grocery store, and I was involved with helping teach actors and models for, how to, like they were real martial artists, but they weren't, but pretend like they were. And, I trained Linda Hamilton. I helped train Linda Hamilton for Terminator in martial arts. And I think that's interesting because of the AI aspect, because I'll be working with Laura in April at Saeed's event, alienevent.com and biomedexpo.com. And they're both under bizton.com, bizton.com. And that's in April with Laura Eisenhower and James Rink and a lot of other great superstars. Carrie Cassidy's coming. And of course, if you guys are in the area, you have an open invitation. And then, so when everything started coming, when 2012 happened, my spirit guides told me it was safe to talk. The time has changed, because you and I are pioneers, and we started back when it was dangerous to release all this information, and we were attacked many times, and we've made it, till here, and we're winning against this battle, and I think that we're protected, and you're my Viking brother. I'm half Norwegian and half Persian, but really my dad's Armenian, and we had to hide as Sarkissians and be dadmares, and so that's why I think that Trump and the Kennedys, and I think I'm related somehow. I think they're Armenian too, because some really crazy magical things happened to me in my life, and I don't know if you want to start now, but talking about it. But this is just some things that, just to describe who I am and what made me today, because I've devoted my life to finding out what's going on, what the hell's going on, and why is the world like this, and why are we slaves to the banks, and why is it such a struggle? And I had these questions answered a long time ago, because it was easy for me to, growing up, just like Laura, I'm from a royal bloodline also, and we grew up, going to embassy parties and seeing, ambassadors from around the world, and I saw things that were going on that are not, they're not good for everyone, and you put things together when you see these families that, my family said, we're not like them, but we have to lay low because they'll kill us. And they said, and there's a prophecy that one of us is going to clean this up. Is that you, Eric? And I secretly knew. My dad always thought I'd be a policeman or a preacher, and I knew I was, that kind of guy to go and, be, clean things up and get the truth out. And so I was working at the movie theater in Century City, and it just started. And all of a sudden, I see this guy in the theater in the lobby, and I was just about to kick. I quickly looked at all the doors to see how this guy got in, because no tickets were sold, and he just appeared out of nowhere. And I said, and when I was walking to him to throw him out, he said, "Eric, do you recognize who I am?" And I quickly looked at my name tag, and I was like, "No, this guy knows me. He didn't see my name tag." And I looked at him. I said, "Wow, you're Donald J. Trump." And he said, "Wow, I'm really impressed you recognize me." He said, "I'm going to be president in the future, and I'd like to talk to you." And I laughed. I said, "I want to be president too in the future, but it's a low level of consciousness." And he laughed, and he said, "You're right." But then he got really serious and looked at me, and he said, "But we have to use these people to get where we're going." And see, right when he said that, I thought, wow, okay, I'm going to go work for the government and the state. And that was in 85. And I worked for the government 7 years later, and then the state after that. So as a whistleblower and trying to figure out what's going on. So he said, "Do you have a moment? We'll sit down." There was this Ames black leather chair at the Plitt Theaters in Century City. It's now a Cineplex Odeon, but it's on the Avenue of the Stars. We won the best theater. And so he's a big, tall guy. When he sat down, I could see the top of his head was kind of bald, and he hairsprayed his hair flat on one side, and he laid it over. And I was thinking, just, God, why don't you just shave it off, And then he must have got my brainwaves, because he looked at my hair and he said, "You do have nice hair." And I was like, how does this guy know me? And I thought maybe he's watching me through the CCTV, because he was in the law offices next to us. He had the whole top floor at the theater, at the two Japanese buildings next to us, the triangular shaped buildings. And his lawyer was DeLorean, who had that car in Back to the Future. And see, we're the real Back to the Future. But he's Biff and I'm Marty McFly. And so we talked for over an hour, and he picked my brain. He said that we talked about the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the fake currency, we
There
talked
goes
about
the
everything.
flags.
We talked about it. Oh, really? Shoot.
Here comes all the flags.
Well, we talked about everything. And when we were done, he asked me if he said he knew I played chess because I was seeing many moves ahead. This was in 85, and I was talking about what's going on now. And so, yeah, I hope you can beep out some things.
It's okay.
It's all good. So, yeah, thanks. I need a filter. Anyway, we spoke for over an hour, and I'm telling you that Donald Trump is a time traveler. And about 6 years ago, I saw pictures of him from 1985 with a full head of hair, and I realized what had happened, that wasn't the one I met, that I met the one from the future, because his friend, John G. Trump, was friends with Tesla, and they got the footlockers with all the notes and information, and they had the time travel technology. And so what I want to tell you is that our sixth sense is psychic ability, but our seventh sense is both time travel and levitation. Okay. And that leads us to the next story, where when I came back to Sacramento in the 90s, I had this girlfriend that was Portuguese. And one night she came over and she said that she met this alien. And I laughed and I said, "How do you know he's an alien?" He says, "Well, he was making these things fly in the air and go circles and he was levitating." And I said, "Wow." And I said, "Well, I want to meet him." And she laughed and she said, "That's what he said. He said that you'd want to meet him." I said, "He knows who I am?" He said, "Yeah, he knows who you are. That's why he came to me for me to tell you about him." And I said, "Okay, well, tell me." He says, "Well, his name is Q." And I said, "Wow." I said, "Describe him." She says, "Well, he's a short Filipino looking guy." And I said, "Okay." And he said that he's not ready to meet you now, but he wants you to know about him. So I said, "Okay." And I forgot about it completely. Okay. So last month I was looking at it, and then let's fast forward now to 2013 when I met Laura and started speaking. My spirit guide said it's safe to speak and go out. The time is different now. So I became a public speaker to get information out. And I had in the audience some friends that were coming regularly, to all the conferences. And one of them was a short Filipino guy named Jay. His name was Jay. And I'm sure Laura knows him too. Everybody's seen him. My friends remember him, and I have a picture of him too. And so then do you remember when Contact in the Desert was at Joshua Tree first before it went to the hotel? And so we were at Joshua Tree, and I parked always by the pool, and I was about to go in the jacuzzi, and Jay showed up, and he had a woolen ski cap, and I didn't think anything of it. We're in the desert, it's hot kind of, and he's wearing a wool ski cap. Well, he wants to go to the jacuzzi with me and talk. So he pulls off his ski cap, his wool cap, and all of a sudden I see him shapeshift. I see his head is a heart-shaped skull. And I just was shocked. And I said, "Holy shit, you're an alien." And he smiled and we hugged. And he told me, "We like what you're doing and we want you to keep doing what you're doing." And I was just so shocked. And I felt this guy's love. And then he offered me this green drink that I wish I had drunk. But, hindsight is 2020. And it would have probably activated me and woken me up or whatever. But I said no. I thought I was too crazy, and I was in shock, and I didn't want any, and I really wish I had some. But last month I was looking at a keyboard, and I saw the letter J on it, and I thought of him, and I smiled, and then I thought to count the keys, and I started counting which letter of the keyboard J was, and it was the 17th letter on the keyboard, and I smiled, and I realized that I'd met Q, because he was a short Filipino guy. And so I'm telling you, from the bottom of my heart, I hope you have a lie detector test or something. You can test me. I have no reason to lie. I'm not selling. I don't have a book. I don't have a book yet. I'm still living my book. He is alive, and it's a team, and there's something going on. That there's a sting operation going on, and deep state. Well, whatever. Somebody's going down. Okay, somebody's going down, and it's not the good guys.
So Eric, do you think that is the event, or do you think there's
there are many events about to happen? We need many events to happen before the major event to happen. We need the money to crash, and we need the players to change. They've already changed, but we need everybody to know that they've changed, and we need to do an EBS system, and then we're ready for more events. But astrologically speaking, it seems more sense when things are going. We're in a time period where it's like until April, and it turns out April Fool's Day, they call it the Fools because they changed the calendar on us and added 1,000 years, and so the calendar really starts vernal equinox, spring, end of March, or April 1st was the new year. Doesn't it make sense to start with spring and new life and new beginnings? And so they make fun of the people and call them fools. And supposedly it was like Jesus' birthday, and it's a lot of I think we're gonna go back to the old calendar, the real calendar, and there's 13 months and 28 days in a month, and stuff like that. That's more in line with the moon and the seasons of the cycles of natural rhythm of nature. So there's a lot going on, and we're going to have some major disclosure. So which event is that the event you're talking about? The new currency exchange rates, and the BRICS nations are happening. They're using gold back currency, and nothing can stop what's coming. And the fiat, the dollar. My friends go to Europe and travel around. They don't accept dollar anymore. A lot of places, and you have to have their money. And there's too many things happening that people say, well, I don't see anything happening. I have friends all over, friends and relatives and family all over the world, and I've been hearing, and seeing things for myself. So I'm quite excited that this is the year of change, and this is it. We've made it. We all promised to come here for this time. This is the biblical time. This is a new renaissance. This is a new beginning, a new birth, and we're going to see some grand changes on a biblical scale. Donald Trump is really the son of General Patton, and his real name's David Patton. And so if he's King David, because he might be married to Princess Diana, because when I was working in the grocery store after the theater, I met John F. Kennedy. He came in with Carolyn first, Jr., and I told him that I knew his dad was alive because I'd met the French nurse who took care of him in a wheelchair on an island near Scorpios, and he smiled, and so I got confirmation. And then next time he came in with Princess Diana, and I told her I loved her and that she was an angel, and she was very compassionate, but they were both older than they were supposed to be, because I've never met them before. I didn't realize, but they were older looking than they should be, and I think they time traveled too. And I've been thinking this, why me, and that's why I think I'm related, is because I know Armenians are really all related, like they're all from the Merovingian blood family, the Christ family bloodline, and our facial structures and stuff are the same kind of, and the Kennedy and whatever. But who knows what's going on, and my dad won't tell me anything, and he says you don't know who you are or where you come from, and that's best because he knows I will tell everyone, so that's a crazy life that we live in, and we're going to find some major change. Yeah. So you look like you're about to say something, Nori.
I think
or Aga was about to say something.
Yeah, we often say it at the same time. Go ahead, Augie.
Yeah, gosh, I think maybe two heads and one thought. Who knows? But
what do you think about all that crazy stuff?
Well, the thing about it is that the world is a lot more crazy than we think it is. We have been taught how to think down, make it simple, make sure the government is right, and we are taught how to think within their paradigm. But the good stuff is outside of their paradigm.
Right. And I think
Yes.
I would love
Go
to
ahead.
hear from Laura about the matrix and the inversion, right? Because then we're going to take that just like a little bit deeper and maybe wend our way toward what we think events are going to show up for the ultimate event, if there really is one. What do you think,
Yeah.
Laura?
I think the inversion has been like a grooming process. I mean, if we look at the events that took place after the Second World War, 1947, the different projects, Project Paperclip, and then what a lot of people don't talk about is what took place in 1952, where there was an unconditional surrender agreement under Truman that basically handed the power over to the deep state, to the three-letter organizations and MJ-12 that were the ones or the individuals and groups responsible for treaties being signed with extraterrestrials that did not originate in the 50s, but actually had been happening previous to that. So a lot of false narratives covering this up is so that they kind of hide in the background and we're distracted over here, not realizing that we're slowly being groomed with all the different indoctrination programs so that we would accept some form of disclosure, but not the kind of disclosure that would help us to see where media, where the school systems, where the medical industry has been compliant or infiltrated by all this indoctrination programming, and also, the psyops that we experience, which very much weaponize the different planetary alignments that are here to throw us into growth periods that help us to be in alignment with organic ascension, which is very much encoded in nature, encoded in our DNA, and a part of the corrections that have been taking place on a cosmic and earthly level. That is basically our planetary system recovering from things like the Atlantean cataclysms, the exploded planets, and the manipulation of the planetary grid network that has been able to siphon and harvest energy to engineer an artificial timeline, which is based in inversions, which is based in the problem reaction solution and how humans give their power away. They're constantly looking outside of themselves and allowing their creative channels to be infected by whatever is drawing them in and triggering them into survival or some kind of fear response to then look outside of oneself for the solution in every way. And people are having enough of it. It's getting ridiculous because the technologies are still here, but a lot of grid work and a lot of awakening has happened, a lot of migrations of advanced souls that actually took place also in 1952. But there's been multiple migrations of advanced souls coming in. And this is something that Eisenhower understood and knew about and worked closely with Valthor. So there's a lot about that, but what we all carry individually, which is, I think, what he was very influenced to share in his final speech about a knowledgeable and aware citizenry, which I feel is a prerequisite to any kind of event because it kind of ripples out. The collective conscious is no longer being utilized and harvested in order to create a future scenario, which would be New World Order, right? They might be pulling out all the stops and doing everything they can while this kind of awakening is happening. Those energetic cords or that ability to have a grip on the human mind is like one breakthrough away for each individual of them being able to actually move beyond it. Now we might say, well, what about 5G? What about all the different things that have been put in the body, the different things that I won't say on the channel that link us like an antenna to these different frequency distortions? Well, when we have a breakthrough and we begin to think from our authentic truth and we go through the growth periods, I feel that level of consciousness begins to de-weaponize the weapons, begins to break it down because that frequency overrides divide and conquer. It overrides fear. It overrides anger and all these lower level of emotions that we're all going to experience as humans. But how much do we stay stuck in it? How much does it control our choices? We're going to face those aspects of ourself, but where are we able to rise above and complete the cycle within ourselves? So a planet like Pluto is going to throw us into the dark night of the soul. It's going to throw us into a death cycle. But are we rebirthing? Are we closer to our soul? Are we all the better for it because we did the inner work? We faced the shadow. Whereas the outer psyops is going to want the fear of death, comply to all of this in this massive growth period that we've been experiencing. with the shift from Capricorn into Aquarius, can they harness that energy so that we're not awakening in these times? We're actually sinking into fear. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of the different attempts made on us for the last couple of years and whatever the next wave or next level of it's going to be. So to me, I like to use the metaphor that the red flags have been enough. And it's been obvious that these red flags are something to pay attention to. So we might be the ones behind the red flags with the information saying, see, these are the red flags, while people are kind of ignoring the red flags, which I think are now bonfires, not red flags. It's like really darn obvious. And if you can see it in the same way that you would see the red flags in a relationship or a partnership or a friendship, where, you start to notice distortions, deceptions, things that just don't feel right anymore, where your self-worth has been so much in the hands of how that person thinks or treats you, that you eventually hit that wall that leads to a breakthrough where you open the doorway and you realize, wait a second, that's playing on my fears. That's playing on my insecurities. That's playing on self-worth, which is what the grooming process has been in this reward punishment system of you need to regurgitate this and follow this to go here and be successful. And anybody else, are targeted, or they got stigmas thrown at them for being ADD, the star seeds that have been ignored, and the people that think outside of the box that have been, wrongly misrepresented, until we stand up and we have found each other to come together and have these conversations, because we've been seeing through it all along. So now we're kind of pointing out, look at what's behind the red flag. Don't fear it. This is a chance for you to come back to yourself. This great event is the reunion with you and your soul, because 5D really is the soul matrix. That's why a lot of these dark agendas are trying to rip people away from the soul and assimilate them into AI, transhumanism, depopulation, and all these sort of things. So I feel that everybody's like one breakthrough away, just a realization that changes everything. When you're really finally able to say, you know what, I'm done. I don't want this anymore. And then you cut the cords. But we know if you're breaking up with a narcissist or an abuser, they're not going to let you go so easily. But if your consciousness has moved on, now you just got to wrap it up with however they're still trying to hold on to you, right? And so this is where we might find we're still waking up in the system. We still have to answer to certain things. But if our consciousness has moved on, we're starting to look at one another to pull resources together. We're being more innovative, more true to our deeper soul calling. That weakens that bond. And then all of a sudden, this new earth energy building from the ground up. And I love what Dr. Shiva's doing, right? And people like that are like, whatever about this outer system. I'm not, going to say who I feel that is, I'm not going to say anything about Trump or anybody else, but, where can we look at it more on a grassroots sort of level in our own communities, in our own personal lives, saying goodbye to the jobs that compromise us, saying goodbye to the relationships that are toxic, saying goodbye to, the stress response, the unresolved trauma response to this inverted reality that keeps people in an addiction spiral to the point where they're not really healing or doing, the necessary work. And I feel that this year ahead will be the ultimate breakthrough. Just as things try and assimilate people even more, that's when the red flag is that much more obvious, where people will say, you know what, regardless of the decisions I've made or how involved in all that they had become or still are, that once they say enough already and break the ties, the healing really begins. No matter what you've ingested, no matter what you've agreed to, the minute you stop consenting is the minute you begin to move into these higher levels of consciousness. That this particular window period is all about helping to switch on our dormant DNA, just higher consciousness, higher self, really being in like grounded in our physical lifestyle. That is the ultimate technology that I feel is going to knock out a lot of the dark weaponry that is causing us to move into inversion, and that the power of spirit and the power of our soul is so much greater than that. That's why we all have these stories, surviving terrible relationships and abuses, close to death experiences. We are so well prepared to be able to do this on a massive scale, because the power of the human spirit is so beyond what we can comprehend. The minute we start to get it, and the minute we start to say goodbye to the things that are tricking us out of our divine blueprint, out of our divine inheritance, it's just like the minute we let go of that, all that energy we call back to ourselves, because we are the powers that be. What we call the powers that be are only functioning on stolen power, the power that we gave to them because, we allowed that to overpower our own ability to see what's really going on. And it's thousands of years in the making that it has gotten its grips into us. But,
Yes.
they've taken advantage of amnesia. They've taken advantage of our vulnerability. When we feel physical symptoms and we freak out and we go to the doctor, now we're learning to get to know ourselves better in the face of these challenges instead of have somebody else write the script for us. And I think that a lot of the planetary alignments that are happening, Jupiter conjunct Uranus, Pluto moving into Aquarius, Saturn and Neptune conjunct, it's all about choose your own adventure. You get to write the script now. If you have belief systems that are not in alignment with your truth, you're going to anchor that timeline. So while you have all these breakthroughs, get your creative energy away from that, purify it and clear it so that you can choose your own adventure and be the co-creator of your future and make it something wonderful instead of the bullshit script we're being given.
Yes. Yes. And with
Yes.
with all that, I feel like the event is us taking back our power, everything that you just said, individually, one by one, our light going on, and then the light goes on all across the state, the country, the world, the universe, no matter what blue beam, scary thing they may throw up in the sky, right? We've worked on ourselves. We've worked on our shadows. We've learned how to regulate our own nervous system so that we can just stay steady and not give in to the fear that they want us to feel.
Right. And being free of that survival energy, we'll have more discernment. We'll be able to feel, what's authentic versus what is fake
Yes.
and what is being staged. And that's the most important thing, just like we would want in any relationship, not being deceived again, being able to see through it, and that's really a development of self-worth with Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is the sign of self-worth and abundance, but we've been groomed to give our self-worth over to something else that we need a pat on the back from or being validated by. Now our spirit guides, our own inner soul, and just connecting with one another, that is going to help to rehabilitate that sense of self, without it being groomed, without it being manipulated, without it being a sub-personality that is just a product of this divide and conquer, where people are so justified in what they're fighting for, but they don't realize they're throwing so many under a bus by, I don't know, you know what I mean. So I'll kind of stop there. But.
I do. I absolutely do. Augie, I know you have something to say.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. And there will probably be some rocks in the road getting there, but they're just rocks. We just still are going to get to where we're going. And when we're talking about the event, I don't see that event being anything of a major negativity that is going to happen. Yeah, there may be. I mean, the United States has been the king of false flags. They have so many of them over the years. But that is not going to be the event as I see it, because the event is, like Laura said, it's a slow progression into higher consciousness where we are able much more so than now, to create our world the way we would like it to see around us. And when it comes to solar flash and things like that, I didn't see that. It's not in my timeline. I'm going to keep it out. I'm just going to stay on that one, but I don't want it. And otherwise, the so-called, ET invention, that could be something that is on the horizon, but not in my timeline. I'm going to do everything I can to keep it out. And guess what? I'm sitting here looking at all three of you besides me. So you must be in my timeline. I think we're all going to be good. That's my claim.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't Laura awesome and amazing, describing the exact themes that are going on? And, with Operation Paperclip, the Germans didn't lose the war. They came to America and became the three-letter agencies. And it's evidenced I went to a gifted class, and it was really the MK Ultra program. And they said they were done in the 70s, but really it was going on. They took us on field trips to Stanford Research and Lawrence Livermore Labs and San Diego. And, there's no doubt about it that they were going on. And luckily, when I was in Santa Monica, I was a grocery clerk I had Carol Rosin as one of my customers, and she's a dear friend since the 80s. And she had me in her movie, to asking the presidents to stop the weaponization of space. And she's just a great woman. And I don't, she's very sweet, and she doesn't think that there's any negative aliens at all, and that everybody's sweet. And I really love, her, but I think that there are some blood drinking, evil, bad ones too. But, and then Laura mentioned fear and love. See, they're pushing fear because they want to keep us off balance, and they're worse. And really they're in fear of us waking up to our higher powers, because we have spirit, we have soul, and we are multidimensional quantum beings existing on many timelines. And the veil has been removed, and we're seeing more things and aliens, and psychic ability is more pronounced and sharper. And I don't know about you guys, but it's very sharp for me. I know when my friends are about to call or come over or ring the doorbell or about what they're going to say. It's a lot sharper now. And that's our sixth sense. Our seventh sense is both time travel and levitation. And we're waking up to these, I think that we're going to see a lot more wonderful things happen. And, they fool us and they trick us into thinking, just like when a cop pulls you over and he asks you, do you know how fast you were driving? That's a loaded question, because he's trying to trick you into saying that you're driving because you need a license to drive. But you don't need a license to travel. You can travel anywhere. You don't need a license plate or driver's license, and you have the right to travel anywhere. You don't need to have a gun license. You can bear arms. It doesn't say what kind, and so they trick us into falling into these, birth certificate where they put us on the stock exchange, and they fool us into paying taxes, and they tax us to death. And the Federal Reserve isn't government place. It's a private corporation, and so we've been fooled all our life, and we're about to change all these things. We're waking up. It's changing. People are awake now, and it's going out exponentially. And it's thanks to people like Laura and us, being pioneer speakers and inspiring people to look into these things, that we're not falling for it anymore. They can't even call it the V. It's a D now, it's not, so, I don't know what to say. I don't want to get in.
Well,
I don't want anything.
We have a question in the chat room.
Yes.
No. Does the event have to happen on this dimension, and will it switch timelines? Confusing. This is from Sarah. Thanks for the explanation. Close the door.
I think there are two timelines. I think where timelines are merging, and that's why we're having the Mandela effect, where I am definitely not from this timeline and have merged into this timeline. I have direct memory of Monopoly, a guy having a monocle, and Curious George having a tail, and I have other memories that aren't in this timeline, and I think they're merging, and that's what this is about. I think that for there to be two Trumps in this timeline, there have to be two timelines. Okay, so I think there are several Trumps in this timeline, and I think that we're about to find out our true density and reality and everything about us. And I don't even think that this is us. This matrix reality isn't even real. It's an illusion. We're divine spirits and having this human experience. And when we sleep, we go to these other timelines and remember, our spirit, our soul is what is important. And so that's what they're afraid of, us waking up to, because we're manifestors. Whatever you think is correct. And that's why it's so important to think good thoughts and know what you want and attract that reality. So do not live in fear. That's the polarity, fear and love. Those are on the opposite sides of the polarity. Live in love, go with the flow. Magic happens that way. So,
so I wonder if based on what you said, if everybody based on their belief system, is going to create or choose a timeline that's going to have the event that is playing in their subconscious mind or is playing in their mind from fear. Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that's sort of the bifurcation, and I don't see it like splitting where you don't see it anymore. I feel like, we're already observing it. We can be more neutral to it instead of invested in it, So we might witness something that is not on our timeline, but we see that others are very much fueling it or a part of it or engaged in it. But it's like we're going to hear about it, right? If we're tuning in to the news, but we can be a neutral observer. Some people are going to be programmed by what they see, and some people are going to be observant to what they see. So I see sort of a bridge between the two splits, and that bridge depends on the individual. How much are you still in service to humanity and still trying to like wake people up or pull them on the lifeboat? Or how much are you just really moving on? Maybe you're off the grid. Maybe you're not in contact with people that you used to be in contact with. They're no longer really a part of your world. It's not a vibrational match anymore. How much are you still invested? It depends. It really depends on each individual. And I feel with the Saturn conjunct Neptune, Neptune being very much about the creative imagination, but also in its distortions, very much about religion. So Saturn having to do with authority and control. Where are people still caught up in dogma? Where are they still caught up in outer authority dictating to them what reality is? A person that is more evolved, that is on the other side of dark Saturn, which is more about self-mastery, is going to be connecting and aligned with the creative imagination, staying true to your visions and your dreams and your deeper calling to manifest something, maybe a healing center, maybe just you're going to like write a book. I mean, or just do something that's unique to your own soul. And Uranus is very much about sovereignty and living your truth. But the shadow side of it is dark technology and transhumanism, right? So each individual is going to be experiencing a different level of it. Their birth chart kind of helps one to see, the different events in their life that will be putting those energies in focus, because you're going to have, people who are already Aquarian that are experiencing the conjunction of Pluto in Aquarius. Other people might be hitting an angle, maybe a squared aspect with it that might be resisting that change. Like right now, we still got Mars, Venus, and Mercury and Capricorn forming a lot of squared aspects to the full moon coming up on Thursday. So it sort of shows that tension of letting go. That anticipation. It's sort of like the fear of jumping out of the airplane. You don't know if the parachute's going to open. Is anything going to catch me? Am I going to be able to, so I feel like the tension of taking that leap, a lot of people are feeling. And it's going to be different for everybody. And I do absolutely agree with what you're saying. I feel the bifurcation is authenticity and truth. And that frequency is connected to, seeing something that reflects back to you, that achievement. Because I feel like the earth responds to us. We're elemental beings. The nucleic acids of our DNA are elemental. The ether energy, the Ophiuchus 13th sign, and like we were talking about, the real calendar, if we're in tune with nature in these cycles, is purifying that. So if we're doing that inner work, aren't we going to see a reflection of that? Just like when we let go of certain patterns that attract the abusive relationships, our life changes when we resolve that, when we heal up that receptor that nothing can plug into anymore. Our life changes. We see people's stories going from, I used to be this, I used to be addicted to that, I used to be in this abusive situation. And like I mentioned before, close to death situations that, you're all the stronger because you've leveraged that adversity to wake up instead of be more victimized. So the victim consciousness, I feel, is a different timeline. It goes into a phantom earth, more assimilation into AI, more thought forms that aren't your own, that are coming through frequency distortions where you think it's your own voice. Where you're acting upon things that are you not being in charge of yourself, you not being able to tell the difference between a signal telling you to do something versus your intuition. And that to me is a completely different trajectory. So hopefully a lot of those individuals will have a breakthrough. And I think that's an event in and of itself, is that awakening for somebody. And it happens at different stages of our lives. It doesn't matter if it happened when we were a kid or if it happens this year. As long as it happens, I think that is the ultimate event. And then what you experience in the bigger picture of it all, will begin to show a world where you find the like-minded people and you gravitate towards the news that isn't mainstream and manipulated, right? It's sort of like when you break through insecurity, you don't notice people looking at you funny. You notice people smiling at you because you're feeling good about you, right? It's just perception is everything. And I think that the more grounded it is, the more consistent it is. Mercury, the magician, 5D, fifth chakra, 5D, soul matrix. We are literally creating the magic and the synchronicities, because that's a part of cosmic and natural law, to begin to move completely off of an inverted timeline, artificial timeline trajectory, because we're in divine wisdom. We're not having artificial thought forms dictating and controlling and creating our reality. So I think it's inevitable that a bifurcation is happening, and I feel that it's really going to be clear and obvious in this next year ahead.
Yeah. Isn't it, I heard somewhere, Laura, and I don't know about the planets, but I heard that the planetary alignment is similar to the alignment that happened when they overthrew the Bastille. So like really revolutionary, rocky. Is that true?
Yeah, revolutionary. Well, it is revolutionary. Uranus is all about revolutionary. It's about just, standing up to tyranny. But we want to be careful too, because they like to leverage that. Oh, let's create martial law. They want, to rile everybody up. And sometimes that's why they won't show the amount of people showing up in a peaceful protest that is more like a gathering than trying to battle a system. It's more about people coming together and saying, we all are in agreement to this. We've had enough of that. But they're not going to report that, right? So a lot of the censorship and a lot of those kind of things, it's sort of rocky, because it's like what we see being broadcast isn't showing us that this is actually happening. But we can tell each other, we can communicate in different ways to let each other know. Actually, thousands of people showed up to this. This is actually the truth of what happened. Alternative media, getting onto these alternative platforms, are going to show what's really happening as we discuss this amongst each other. I'm not quite sure about, the other thing that you said, but there is a bumpiness to it because of the way that it's being displayed to everybody else in the smear campaigns, in the way that they'll try and influence people to perceive it in a certain way, which isn't the truth of what it actually is. So there's that bumpiness, and there's the bumpiness also of breaking free completely and totally and having to kind of walk into that transition that's uncomfortable until you begin to find like-minded people. People are all over the world are buying up land or creating community, not in a cultish way, not in the way that the old paradigm model was, not in looking to a guru or a leader that's going to guide the way, but that we're all stepping up and we're being leaders in our own right. And that to me is a prerequisite to true unity consciousness, because it's not based in an old paradigm, where even cults or the alternative scenarios ended up being the very same system, but with a different language and terminology and a different sort of presentation. But it's the same old giving your power away to something outside of yourself, and how that misuse of power that particular leader gets addicted to and begins to become corrupt. And I don't see that happening. I feel like people are rising up and taking charge within their own being. And it's going to be us utilizing the different skills and talents as we all are stepping up and leading by example, which is a different kind of leadership than looking to a leader or that one person to do it for you. So that's bumpy, because it's like a detox and a withdrawal. People are going to go through it sort of withdrawal, like, oh my God, are we really doing this? But a lot of us already know how to, and we can only just encourage, and we got to hold hands. We're going to have our good and bad days, because it's a rehabilitation. We're overcoming extreme trauma and betrayal.
Yeah.
And the bumpiness of it all is coming to terms with it and resetting the energy, but also knowing this is so much to celebrate, because really you're coming back to you. Not something you have to believe in, but believing in yourself, trusting yourself a lot more, and knowing, that the love and mutual respect and support are going to come from people that live by integrity, not by judgment.
Yes. And Sarah asks, please share your views on grid work or other rituals you may do to influence the outcome. What can we do to?
I don't know if you want to answer that, Eric. I mean, grid work, there's some that
I love
specific grid work.
Before we ever start a conference, I always walk around with on the outside. I circle it with, I always, when I see you, I forgot to give you last time I saw you, Laura. I saw it. I said, oh shit, I forgot to give it to her. It was I always give you a sage, and I forgot to give you a sage.
I still
And
have
I
I still have a few of the sages that you've given me right over there.
I know I always
Aw.
give you one, but I had one I forgot to give you last time I saw you. I lost count how many times we saw each other. We did so many conferences together, and then we were having fun hanging out at Shasta playing pool. But
Oh, and you always give me the most epic massages. You're so sweet. You
oh
always come
my
with me
God.
on. I'm like, whoa.
Well, let me tell you, I walk around with a sage stick clockwise, and it's white sage, and then I burn Palo Santo at the same time, Hollywood. And that's how I do ghost busting too. I like the problem cases that my friends can't clear the ghosts or the demons or be as an exorcist or whatever. And my friends are like major exorcists, like for the Pope and and
Wow.
our mutual friends that I have with Laura and stuff. And so,
Yeah.
it's important that we hold ourselves in the highest frequency vibration of love and compassion. But I always thought love was the highest frequency. Really, truth is living in your truth and not being, pushed off what you believe and allowing other people to express their views and at their level of consciousness and giving them the space to evolve, because when you consider them hopeless, you don't give them the space to evolve. So you can't consider people hopeless. You have to give them space to evolve. And because not everybody's going on the freeway to the next place. Some people are taking a detour and the scenic route and but we all are one, and we have to experience all these different facets, because ultimately we're all creating time, our own, everybody is creating the timelines. We're all manifestors, So, but there's major ones that are merging, and then there's ones that are going to 5D, one to back to 3D, and so everything happens. Yes, to E, all of the above, and so I just love listening to Laura and her explanations and weaving in astrology and how it, because that's what's going on. We're all stardust, and these are magnetic signatures. They imprint upon us and they affect us, and there's a theme to what's happening, and it's set in it. When you read the astrology in the newspaper, that's all I used to read in the newspaper. They were good for just astrology and the comics, and you read all of the different signs, and then you get a good understanding of what's going on and the theme, and so I don't think it's going to be as bad as everybody says. I think everything has really happened, and because they took out the major players first, they had to, and only the minions are left, and they couldn't tell people what was happening, because they would think that Trump was a dictator and creating all these things and doing these things, so they had to do it in a slow way to wake people up at their own pace, because they wouldn't agree to it. That they have to just the best school is experience of you experiencing it, and they have to experience it for themselves. You can't tell people anything. They have to see it for themselves and put it together themselves. So, and that's what's happening, is just there. Even if it takes a shock and awe event, a scare, false flag event, don't be scared, because it's to get them home, to sit in front of their computer and TV, to hear the emergency broadcasting system about everything that we've been talking about for the last 10 years. Okay, because it's difficult for pioneers and people who see so far. We're labeled crazy, but soon we'll be the ones they'll be seeking out to explain what's going on and what really happened. So. And it's not, and we're always, I could be wrong about everything, I'm always willing to update whatever. And so just being open-minded to change and not being in fear, basically. So what do you think about that, Aga?
There will be a time when they're going to come to us and ask questions. Because of who we are and what we're doing, they think that we probably know more than they do, and maybe not. But we are kind of on the front end of things. And when it talks about the event, there's so many theories about what it could be. But it's not the end of the world. because the world will continue. Earth has this phenomenal residuals. It will go on. There's going to be something after, but there will be some changes. And another one, I hear people saying, "Oh, we're all going to die." No, we're not. We're going to continue. There's going to be something after. A lot of souls have decided, or were decided before they even came, that they were going to go through most of this and then they will leave. And that was their decision. And for what is going to happen, things will happen. Not necessarily things that we would think would be possible, but it turns into a positive learning experience which we will grow from. And a definite learning experience for the ones out there that is not that sharp and they're embedded in the system. They're going to see things happening and they're going to look at us and say, "Wait a minute, he said that. She said that. What do they know that we didn't know at the time?" So now they're going to start listening because they found out that somebody in authority lied to them because something different happened. Or this is going to be happening a lot. And on another thing too, we are going to see truth emerging in mass from underneath, from everywhere. We're going to see it. And don't be afraid to point it out. Yeah, that's what I see is right. And also freedom is going to emerge after it gets slightly worse. I can see that because there's plans being made for us that is not for our best. But it's going to come. Freedom will come. And with freedom comes abundance. Those two are married. They come together. And when it happens, there's going to be a new world, a new society. And this is something that a lot of psychics have seen. I've seen it, and it is coming. It is in our future. Not all of it's going to be up roses until that. But if you look at the backside of it, it is a learning experience that will help us grow into that new world. Without the negativity, we may not be able to quite grow as fast as we could.
But there's so many other amazing things to enjoy along the way. I mean, with the veil lifting, like Eric was mentioning, psychic abilities are, coming online and opening up, and things are happening so quickly. I don't know about you guys, but manifestation, I have to be so careful because, it's happening quickly. And if my thoughts go awry, sometimes I can manifest something that's probably not exactly what I wanted. But like the other night, I was doing my weekly Reiki, and I've seen energy come from people's hands before, but it was on video. And I was working on this little boy, and I envision his body in my mind, and I'm touching him, in the ethers. And literally, I have it on video now. This red energy came up through the triangle of my hands. And I don't know. I mean, spirit has a sense of humor. They actually looked like they turned into hearts. So things are really happening. And I think that no matter, what the bumpiness is or what the rockiness is, that, like Laura said, we need to hold hands and just pull together. And your dog is so adorable, Eric.
It's my friend's dog, Dharma. She's really cute.
God. She's so cute.
I love what you're saying, that if you want to see the energy between your hands, and if you want a good Tai Chi school, they're the ones that are doing it at sunup and sundown. All the other times are not real. And you can see the energy between your hands at those times. And that's when you should look. You look, practice at those times. You can see the energy between your hands, sunup and sundown. It's amazing. And it's wonderful that the more you cultivate it, the more powerful it becomes. And then when you can cultivate it, then you can direct it and actually hit things without touching them and do things. And then you start moving things, and but you have to believe and relax and do it. Awesome.
And And these are all the cool things that we can focus on along the way,
Yes.
instead of, the false narrative and the negative things that, my godmother is 86 and she feels her mission is to pray for the world. So she watches the news 24/7. She watches Fox News. So I subconsciously get blips of it and I'm like, oh, I've got to turn that off. Just turn that off, please. Oh, so untrue.
Hey, Nori, I have that picture you sent with the images that showed up in your Reiki session.
Oh, okay. I don't know if they'll show up, but yeah.
I think they probably will.
Yep, there you go. Yep. Yep.
That is something that is incredible because it showed something that was interdimensional.
Yeah, that blew me away. I had to go watch it like 10 times to believe that it really happened. But these are all of the beautiful experiences that are right here in front of us, instead of giving into the fear or the fear of destruction. We create our own reality, and when we come from love, love shows up in our life in every way that it possibly can. And I'm just, if you guys have any closing comments or.
I had a near-death experience, and you will always be awake somewhere. Don't be scared to die. We're not going to die. I'm half Iranian. Really, we're Armenian, but I speak Farsi, and I'm telling you, the Iranians don't want a war. They'll turn them in to have a war tribunal. We're going to have military. We've been having military tribunals. Military is the only way. Okay, everybody's corrupt. And until we realize this, I talk about Tartaria and about other things, that are really going on. And this is not the way things are. And people are waking up to that, my court, the state court down the street is closed and it doesn't open. You can't go inside and do things. And I think we're seeing a government shutdown of a lot of places. I don't think it's Washington, D.C. anymore. If you look on maps, the D.C. has been removed. It's just Washington. I think they're just taking down and destroying a lot of satanic sites. And there's a lot of things going on that is proving that it's going down. There's a change. I don't think Biden's going to be extending the executive orders of Trump now, but that's what's happening, so it can't be really him, can it? Why would Biden, extend his executive orders? So, we're going to find out a lot of things, and a lot of people we think are dead are really alive, and a lot of people that we think are alive are really dead. And so we're going to wake up to the real, reality of what's going on, that there's maybe a lot going on, and it'll be crazy. It'll be so crazy.
But that's going to be the event, right? That will be one of the events when we realize
the purple cloud. I met Prince in the 80s, and he's a genius. And he told me about his song Purple Rain, and it's about this purple cloud coming in, and it's just going to wake up everybody. It's going to raise their frequency vibration and knock them on their ass to hold more light. And then later I heard some psychics talking about the people who can't handle this will be taken off planet to be able to hold this amount of light. But it's going to fry, vibrate the shit out of everything else. It'll transmute everything, all the lower vibrational frequencies of fear and hate. So it's nothing can stop this. And it's just a wonderful thing that's about to come, a beautiful thing. And it's amazing that we're here at this time, and it's a celebration. I think we're going to be celebrating. I promise you, we're going to be celebrating for a year, because I know Trump likes to throw good parties, and he's into the hotel business, and we're going to have all these people we thought the musicians were dead. We're going to see them dancing and singing, and we're going to be celebrating for a year. I promise you. Okay. And I'm telling you firsthand. So,
we're going to hold you to that one. I love it.
Yeah. Laura, how about you? What celebrations or closing thoughts do you have?
Well, I think, yeah, it's just important, to celebrate. We don't want anything to, really bring us down and to just constantly be affected about things going on outside of us. Doesn't mean stop advocating or calling things out or not like seeing, what's sort of happening, because we want to sort of understand, and sometimes you got to feel it to heal it. But once you move through that stage of it, just embracing neutrality, embracing being the observer, being a helping hand as much as you can, to what there is to celebrate. There's so much to celebrate, because the greater cosmic intelligence and the earth energies and what's encoded in our DNA holds everything connected to ascension, which is human advancement, switching on what's dormant, unscrambling the DNA codes that they have called junk, by understanding it's about integration of polarity, sacred union, hierogamic union, and how that will draw soulmates and true partners, true community, and that all these adversities are really here to help us to wake up, and that's why they show up. All the life events that happen in our life happen for a reason. But when we misunderstand it and we let somebody else define it for us, and it pulls us further away from ourselves, yeah, that trajectory doesn't look so good. It's filled with falsity. It's filled with deception. It's filled with, those that are filling their pockets with your money. And when we, look at it like, wow, okay, we bless these events in our lives. We celebrate the wisdom that it gives us. We, prioritize what really matters to us. We see the changes happening in our lives as an upgrade instead of a misfortune or something to panic about. Then we have more trust in what's actually happening, and we trust ourselves more, which I feel is the ultimate surrender to true source energy, which is free from a lot of what, we've been taught. So overcoming those programmings, even if you think you're overcome, those programmings, they do still linger. So, let's have some levity and sort of laugh in the face of it, and remind ourselves, as a community, and then we traverse these obstacles and we graduate to the higher octave of all these planetary energies that absolutely hold the victory. Nature is encoded to know how to repair itself, heal itself, bring things back to equilibrium, regenerate, and restore. It's encoded in nature to know how to do that. It's only the mind control that has tricked our bodies out of knowing how to do that when adversity, challenge, or disease strikes. The minute we, really look into the root of it and we shift our consciousness in accordance to the lesson learned or the trauma being faced or the programming being deprogrammed, we're home free. And that's a lot to celebrate, because we are the best thing to remember in these times. And what that creates together will no longer allow any force to feed on us or siphon off of us, only to be co-creative with, where it's a mutual exchange of beautiful energy. And to me, that's the true relationship. We're moving from, the bad partner and the bad parent that has convinced us that it actually cares about us, which it doesn't. And we're moving into true love on every level, within ourselves, with creation, and with the real solid community and friends and soulmates and true partners that will inevitably, through synchronicities, find their way to us. And in the meantime, if you feel isolated, look at it like a sanctuary, that you're holding your a beautiful space for yourself as you prepare to move out again into this world on different terms than before, where you're with those that are just celebrating and cheering you on, because you've removed yourself from the lies, the trickery, the false light too, that might sustain you for a little while, and then you realize it isn't sustaining you at all. There's a lot to celebrate about where we fall and get back up, and how we can only get stronger and stronger. This is how we build muscle. We got to get back to building that intuition like it's a muscle. If it's gone atrophied, spend more time in nature. And you'll know who your real friends are too. Don't be afraid to let go of the ones that aren't real friends. There might be a mourning period, but you got so much to look forward to. There's 7 billion plus people on the planet. The few that are the ones that are ready to let go of, think of how much you have to look forward to with those that are right for you. So there's nothing but celebration in that, I feel.
That is beautiful, Laura.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. It's been so great.
That was awesome. Augie, you have any closing comments? I love everything Laura said.
Yes.
I love what all of you have shared, and Eric, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I'm so happy to thank you for agreeing to do something with me. I think it's funny that we're all here together and doing this, and it's a wonderful time to be celebrating, and we're going to see it soon. It's happening, and I look forward to seeing you soon in April. And you know, you got, of course, you got another massage coming, and so, and another
Okay.
another sage stick, and Aga, where are you, Aga? Are you close to LA?
Oh no, I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
Okay, that's a long drive. Yeah. And how
Yeah.
about you, Nori?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow, that's even longer drive. I think it's a long drive from Sacramento, California, but I love driving fast and you know,
That's
going
great.
to these
All
events,
right.
you know. So
That's great.
our
Well,
next event is bizton.com in April at the Sonesta in LAX. I'll see Laura there with Brad Olson and Carrie
Cool.
Cassidy and
Well, we've been
Wow.
talking.
It's a big lineup. Check it out. You know, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
We've been talking about the event here, and there'll be more talking about that as we go into the future here. And I think that the event is nothing to be afraid of.
Exactly.
Some of the stuff that is coming before it, it may not feel good, but it will help the world to wake up, to realize that, wait a minute, we have been lied to. And so it is necessary for the whole bigger purpose of waking up humanity. And it's going to be good in the end. That much I've seen. So, and you know, when you see things in the future, it doesn't have a date stamp on it. So I would say just take it as it comes and do the best you can to prepare for yourself. And don't worry about the solar flash. I never saw one. It's not going to happen. And the false ET invasion that they had planned for us, I have never seen that either. It's not going to happen in my timeline. Though this year I see something that will kind of surprise a lot of people, and that is a common understanding among the people that there are extraterrestrials and they want to commune with us. The governments, they're going to deny as long as they can until they can't anymore, and then it'll be all over. So we're going to have a good time, folks. Just hang in there.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Augie. Thanks, everybody in the chat room and you who are watching this on the replay. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And Sunday night is the Paranormal Show with Augie. And meet you back here next Tuesday for more cosmic quantum conversations. Thank you so much, everybody. Bless you. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you
Matt.
so much for having us. Bye.